Hi, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Martin. I'm here to talk about the Pilot Era camera. I'll tell you a bit about myself. I'll talk about the state of the camera industry, why phones are eating everything, and the camera as an appliance, and why I think this camera is a very interesting product that you should keep your eyes on. All the pictures here are taken with this camera. This is a Lucerna coffee house. Maybe you remember that at the Prague conference 4 years ago. A bit about me. In 2005, I started a project called Prague 360. It was one of the, among the earliest combinations of 360 photos on a map. I was also quite into VR news, like, shooting 360 photo, getting it online as soon as possible. This is Haruki Murakami accepting some award in Prague at a press conference. This was one of the iterations of Prague 360, which eventually morphed into 360cities.net, which many of you know. It's the largest 360 photo licensing platform in the world. I founded Sphericam, which ran until 2017. We designed and built a couple of cameras, which you guys are probably familiar with. I gave all your money back. And I've always been involved in gigapixel photography. I love shooting gigapixel photos. This is me in Tokyo on top of the Roppongi Hills Tower. And shot one of the earlier sports gigapixels in Wembley Stadium of the FA Cup final. And working on a new gigapixel photo right now. So what has always interested me in photography, and when I discovered 360 photography, what really kind of took me was that this was a fundamentally new thing, which was not really possible in analog photography. Of course, 360 photography has been around for 100 years, we all know about that, but spherical photography has not, and the precise remapping of photos into a sphere, something that's only possible with pixels, not with film. And this really pushing the technology forward is something that's always fascinated me deeply. We have different types of cameras today. We have phones, we have consumer cameras, we've got professional cameras, we've got specialty cameras. So phones are now in everyone's pocket. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone can take, if they're lucky, a professional-looking photo. And every time a new phone comes out, I'm shocked at how much better it's gotten, and how can they do that? Consumer cameras, point-and-shoot cameras are almost completely dead. No one needs them anymore. We still have professional cameras. There isn't so much overlap with phones, but the market has been shrinking. It seems to be sort of flattening now and recovering. And then we've got various types of specialty cameras, including 360 cameras, stereo cameras. We've had light field cameras come and go, and other stuff. One thing that's sort of concerned me for a long time is what is the deal exactly with phones? The cameras are pretty good, but it's not just the image quality that is the reason that we are seeing this that they're literally destroying the camera industry. Part of it, I think, is because there is some real innovation in the software of phones, and that there are huge teams, there are huge budgets, there are billions of customers for these phones, which are making them innovate in the camera software. The phones have the ability to have apps on them, so you can write your own app to make this phone camera thing do anything you want, and people are doing that. So we've had things like Instagram come and all that stuff, and none of that is really present in normal cameras, and I don't really see a reason for that. It's sort of just a matter of inertia. So we've got cameras. The cameras themselves are powerful computers. Sometimes they have the exact same chip that you have in a phone, but they don't have open API. They don't have an SDK. They're hard to use. You might love your Sony A7R, but it takes a couple of weeks of training to use it, and using it kind of feels like work. And I think we can, probably most of us will agree on that. So I think this is something that's kind of unfortunate, and I hope it will change, because this is something that the camera industry should be very concerned with, and they can and should do something about it. So when I first saw the pilot era in Photokina last year in September, I thought it was quite impressive. It's sort of like a phone, like it's got this big touch screen. It's like a big fat phone with a touch screen running Android and 4 lenses. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then you turn it on and it looks like an iPhone. It's got little icons on it. And I was like, huh, this is interesting. And it's all self-contained. I was like, this is really cool. So to me, it's not just a camera. It's like an imaging appliance. Like a phone is not a phone. It's not a camera. It's also a type of appliance. So what struck me is that the design philosophy of this device seems to be fundamentally different from the other cameras that we have, 360 cameras or regular cameras. Most cameras that we have today are sort of an adaptation of a film camera. It's a thing that you take pictures with and then you take the pictures off of it. But this thing is different. You've got the ability to do all kinds of things in the camera, including the stitching of the photos and the videos and live streaming and all that stuff. So what struck me is that somebody said, okay, what should a 360 camera do? What are people doing? What do they need to do? Okay, let's build that from the ground up. So that's what struck me as different. This is Ross Castle, where we were a few days ago in southwestern Ireland. So this device can shoot and publish 360 photos. You can put it on top of your car, shoot a Google Street View sequence. Then when you're done, you plug an Ethernet cable into it and you push a button and it goes to Google servers and it's online. During Stafford's talk yesterday about Street View, I shot a panorama of him and published it to Street View before his talk was even finished. You can live stream video in 360, which I've been doing in Prague. There have been some demonstrations about the Prime Minister, so I've been going there with a SIM card in the camera and live streaming the whole affair directly from the camera without any other hardware. And it shoots up to 8K resolution 360 video. Again, it stitches it in the camera, or you can take the files off the camera and stitch it in Mystica or other tools, of course. So to me, this is a 360 imaging appliance, which is really not the same as the other cameras out there. This is the demonstration from last week in Prague. So if you remember smartphones in 2006, does anyone remember Steve Jobs' iPhone presentation? He shows these existing smartphones with the keyboard and stuff like that. So we've got, I kind of see that as the cameras today. We've got cameras that are smart and they do interesting stuff, and we think that it's good enough, but it's really not. And I think we should really demand more functionality from these devices. They're entirely capable of a lot more than they're letting on, but it is difficult in terms of product design, in terms of optimization, and all of that stuff. These are not cameras, they're powerful computers. So that's what I find interesting about this device. So the pilot era folks, they originated from providing stitching algorithms to other 360 camera companies who were building 360 cameras over the last 5 years or so. They became very experienced in implementing their stitching algorithms on these low-power ARM core devices. And with all that experience, they were able to make a very efficient device. It's got like 1/10 of the power envelope of a Insta360 Pro, for example, with some comparable specs. So this is what I find interesting about this device. It's worth watching out for. It's the first product from a company. I find that impressive as a first product. So keep your eyes out and pay attention. I think it's worth checking out. And that's my talk for today. Thank you. And are there any questions?
I'm sure there will be. But, first, thanks for getting us back on track on time. It was short and sweet.
I do my best.
Hey Jeff, I've been watching some of the streaming stuff you've been doing over the last couple of months on Facebook, and some really solid results. Can you tell us a bit about data rates if you're using just SIM rather than using stuff over Wi-Fi, but when you're out in the protests, do you have a choice of being able to throttle data rates, or is it automatically done according to the...
So yeah, I can show you precisely later. There's different options for the resolution, and there's an adaptive mode, so it will change the resolution and the bit rate. You can set the minimum bit rate for each resolution, so if it goes down below 8 megabits, it will move down in resolution. So these demonstrations, I did both with a single SIM card and then with an external modem with 2 SIM cards with network bonding. But generally, over LTE, the maximum you can really do is 30 megabits. So that's pretty good for 4K. With a single SIM card and in a crowded place, I would say the maximum that you can safely get away with is 15, and it's probably going to go down to like 4 megabits if you're in a crowded place. But from the first demonstration that I went to, that was only from the single SIM card in the camera, there were 50,000 people there, and it worked. It was not always great video, but it worked.
All the demonstrations I've been at, there is no signal. It's absolutely swamped.
Jeffrey, I just want to ask you if you have reached the stage yet where you wish it could do more. In other words, what don't you like about this camera?
Always. I mean, yes, I always wish any camera could do more. I mean, I was talking to Sergey yesterday, and he said, well, the next camera I have needs to be 12K or 16K. And I mean, yes, of course, we want it to do more. I think, personally, if it has a few more manual controls, for example, that would be nice. If it has more controls over the quality and bit rate of the video and the photos, that would be nice. So it's built to be kind of foolproof, and you really can't hand it to someone who is unskilled. You could give it to a journalist or to someone shooting real estate, and they will not have any problem. But for someone who wants to be able to change anything, I wish there were a few more controls for that, for example.
Yeah, this is actually a nice follow-up. I have a two-part question. So first of all, you're becoming basically the spokesperson for Pisoftech at this point.
Is that a question?
This was a question. Yes, there was a question.
It seems to be yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
As the designated spokesperson, does the development team have your ear? Meaning, do they listen to suggestions from the market, like, hey, we would like to see this and this and this feature integrated? Or are they following similar to other Chinese vendors where they say, we don't really listen to the market, we just do whatever we want?
Generally, and I guess you know me well enough to know that I will not let someone not listen. If I'm talking to them, I will make sure they're listening, or I won't go away.
Good. Thank you for being stubborn.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Jeffrey.